Final Fantasy VI, or it was as it was originally known, Final Fantasy III, is probably one of the biggest RPGs ever made. Probably one of the most popular on Super Nintendo. Definitely the most popular on Super Nintendo. With a long legacy of people who refer to this game as just being a genre-defining classic, right? Some people who don't even like JRPGs play and respect this game because of all the things it did and all the ideas it introduced and all of its concepts. And I myself really found myself disappointed with the game when I first played it. A lot like Chrono Trigger, I played through the game in like about a weekend. I bought it like while I was on vacation, and like during the drive back, I spent like 20 hours just playing this thing, and I liked it, right? But I didn't really understand what the big deal was, and I think it was because I was a little bit younger than the intended target audience. I was quite precocious and able to understand the plot just fine. But like, you don't really appreciate like nuanced sort of emotional storytelling like that, like you do when you're that young, right? So playing this for the first time, I was just like, oh yeah, Evil Empire, yeah. Like it came off as kind of generic almost. With how much this story apes off of Star Wars and other material that I was much more into. There's so much. There's so many things you could point out to this game in this game as just being like, maybe that could have been better handled. Maybe that could have been more engaging. Maybe that could have been. Maybe they could have done more with this. But as I've gotten older, as I've really gotten to understand just what JRPGs were like back then, I really began to appreciate just how big of a deal this game actually was. With like its daring plot decisions, its structure, its end game content. Like Final Fantasy VI is just loaded with engaging, interesting things to do and places to see and just interesting plot developments. Like seeing the world end and having to travel around trying to reclaim your lost party members and raise your abilities to challenge the final boss. It's interesting. Like you can technically fight the final boss as soon as you get the airship. If you have the ability to do so, but you're not going to be able to do it right away until you get the best abilities and all the characters you need. Like there's a lot of interesting things at play here. Each individual character feels like they really add a lot to the world in a unique, interesting way. You have like Setzer, the traveling gambler. You have Celes, the general from the Imperial Army who betrays them and joins your side. You have Terra, the magical girl. Locke, the thief. Like people who all have like their intricate, detailed backstories that all kind of blend together to just make the world feel really, really lived in. Final Fantasy IV already did this to a certain extent, but 4 feels a lot more generic. It feels very Dragon Quest-ish with like its knights and things like that. Like Final Fantasy VI has I think more than any other of the classic first 6 Final Fantasy games has this really serious sense of style and design, right? Like this takes place in a world where magic no longer exists, or so it's commonly believed, right? Like 1,000 years before, magic has been the Great War of the Magi eliminated, led to the extinction of people who use magic. So the society has developed into a more like steampunk kind of post-industrial society. But the power of magic is rediscovered, and that eventually leads to the end of the world, and that leads to you having to your characters really rising up and really trying to do something about it. Right? At first, it's just taking on the evil empire, but eventually you have to take on like incredible forces beyond your wildest imagination. It is great. It really does. It really has aged really, really well. And I think it's I think I probably do prefer stuff like Chrono Trigger. I probably do prefer like there are probably JRPGs I prefer more than this. But to deny the impact that this game has had on the gaming landscape would be ridiculous. I like this game more than Final Fantasy 7. I think I think it's way more impactful, like to the actual genre with the actual like the cliches it established, the general design, the artistry, like the music. I can't believe I haven't praised the music. The music is just stellar, spectacular. I every time I play this game, I'm just blown away by the soundtrack. Still love it to this day. Um, I I really really value this game a lot, and I really hope that someday we get a proper re-release on Nintendo Switch.